Okay, we're going to talk about Google today, but I want to start with a question that honestly is kind of unsettling when you really stop and think about it.
No, seriously. Think about it for a second. Can you pinpoint the exact moment you sat down and thought, yep, I'm cool with giving my emails, my location, my search history, basically my entire digital life to this one company? Yeah, I'm guessing probably not.
For pretty much all of us, it happened more like this. It wasn't one big conscious choice. It was this slow, gradual drift, a series of 1,000 tiny little concessions, all in the name of making life a bit easier. Each one seemed totally reasonable on its own, but then you zoom out, and you suddenly realize you've handed over the keys to your entire digital kingdom. And that's really our first stop, digging into how we all ended up in this unconscious agreement, trading little bits of our privacy for a slightly easier life over and over again, without even really noticing.
Let me give you a quick personal story. Way back in 2009, I jumped on the Google Chrome bandwagon. And you know what? It was amazing. It was so much faster, more stable. It just won because it was flat out better. But as the years went on, I started to get this uneasy feeling. Maybe handing everything over to the world's biggest advertising company wasn't the best idea. So I bailed. I tried Firefox, I used Opera for a while. Then, in 2023, Microsoft totally wowed me with its new AI-powered Edge browser, so I switched again. But guess what happened? Slowly but surely, I drifted back to Chrome. And why? The little things. A slightly slicker tab experience on my phone, some new feature that only worked in Chrome. One tiny convenience at a time, and bam, they had me back.
And my little browser hopping journey, it's really just a tiny snapshot of a much, much bigger story. This isn't just about one person's browser choice, it's about the very plumbing of the internet itself.
Okay, check this out. This chart isn't just showing which browsers people use, it's showing the engines that make them run. And the result is kind of shocking. Google's engine Chromium powers something like 70% of all web browsing. To put that in perspective, Apple's WebKit is sitting at 20%, and poor old Firefox with its Gecko engine, a tiny 3%. The reality is, most of the internet we experience is built on a foundation laid by Google.
And this is where it gets really interesting. This shows just how deep that foundation goes. You might think, oh, I'm avoiding Google. I use Microsoft Edge, or Opera, or Brave. Well, guess what? They're all built on Chromium. We're talking over 20 different browsers that are, under the hood, running on Google's code. I mean, it was a massive deal when even Microsoft, Google's biggest rival for decades, just gave up and rebuilt Edge on top of Chromium.
Okay, so what? Who cares if everyone's using Google's code? Well, here's the thing. When one company controls the foundation, they get to write the rules. And those rules can change your entire experience online.
Let's take ad blockers, for instance. It's a perfect example. Google just pushed out a huge update called Manifest v3. Before this change, an extension like uBlock Origin was like a super-powered security guard. It could look at every single thing your browser was trying to load in real time and block whatever it wanted. Super powerful, super effective. But after Manifest v3, now extensions are stuck with a much weaker, pre-approved list of rules. It's a massive downgrade in how effective they can be. And because it's baked right into Chromium, this change affects all those other browsers too.
So is there any way around this? Well, yeah, there is one. The only major browser left that lets you use those full-powered ad blockers is Firefox. Why? Because it never gave up its own engine. It's the last truly independent player in the game. But the catch? Like we just saw, it has such a tiny slice of the market, which makes it a constant uphill battle to even stay in the conversation.
All this control over the web, it's all for one thing really. Data. And if you want to truly grasp the scale of what Google knows about you, they actually give you a tool to see it. It's called Google Takeout. And what it shows you, well, it is absolutely eye-opening. So I did it. I downloaded the data from a single Google account that was created way back in 2004. And this is the result. 527 gigabytes. Let that sink in for a second. Over half a terabyte of data. That is literally a digital lifetime. So, you want to peek inside?
It starts right at the very beginning. Here is the first Google search ever made on this account, all the way back in November of 2007. It knows what you were curious about before you probably even remember being curious about it.
And then it gets way more personal. Ever used a Google smart speaker? Yep, it has the audio files. Every single "Okay Google, what's the weather?" stored as a little audio recording. And of course, there's your location history. Every single address you've ever looked up in Maps,
every route you've ever taken. It's a complete log of your movements through the world. And if you use Chrome and have Sync turned on, it's got your browsing history. And we're not just talking searches here. This is a full record of the websites you visited, all neatly synced across all your devices.
And finally, this is where it puts all the pieces together. Google doesn't just hold on to your data, it actively analyzes it to build a profile of who you are. In this case, it generated a demographic profile without ever being explicitly told any of this information. It's not just storing facts, it thinks it knows who you are.
Okay, seeing all of that data laid out in one place, it's a gut punch. It really forces you to confront that unconscious deal we've all been making for years. So where do we go from here?
First, we just have to name the pattern. Let's call it the convenience trade. It's that constant little negotiation we do, giving up a bit more data to make your life a tiny bit easier. You know, letting your smart glasses use your location so you can ask a question, letting an AI scan your emails to give you better suggestions. Every single time, it's the same trade-off.
And here's the really crucial part. The reason this trade is so hard to say no to is because these products are designed that way on purpose. The path of least resistance, the easiest, smoothest default option, is always the one that shares the most information. Choosing privacy means you actively have to swim against the current.
Look, the point of all this isn't to say Google is evil or that you should go delete all your accounts and live off the grid. They make some amazing, incredibly useful products. The point is to make a conscious choice, to stop sleepwalking through it. Actually go look at your data, use Google Takeout, see what's in there for yourself, and then you decide what you're actually okay with. Make your privacy a real decision, not just another one of those pop-ups you click away without a second thought.
Because, back in the day, a web browser was just the tool you used to get to the internet. But today, the browser is the internet. And when one company basically controls its foundation, it's really worth taking a minute to think about your place in all of it. So now that you know, what's your decision?